Okay, we'll start by trying to find the sites for the bicep and tricep skin folds. We need to find the most lateral border of the acromion. So we palpate the top of the arm here to find the acromion, which is the lump closer towards the back of the arm. And we want to find the most lateral border. So in order to do that, we usually just take a pen and we just roll it, and where we can feel it rolling off the edge, that's the part that we want right there. So it's the most lateral part of the acromion. Notice when I did that, I found that, and I never took my finger off it, and then I just drew a little line. Right, so we're using that in the markup. Notice also that it's a line and not a cross, and when it's not a dot, it's nothing else. At this point, we're just using lines. Then we want to find the head of the radius. So again, remember the radius is on the thumb side of the arm. I sort of twist the arm around and I can feel the actual head of the radius moving. You'll have a series of lumps in this area. You've got the epicondyles of the humerus, and then you'll feel there's a slight little gap, and then you can feel the head of the radius. So you know you're in the right spot if there's a little gap above it, and by moving the arm, pronating and supinating the forearm, you can actually feel movement at the head of the radius. And again, we put a little line. We need to find the halfway point between these two markings. So we just take our tape measure, we place it on the two, keeping in mind one thing: we never use the 0 or this sort of offshoot part of the tape measure. Right, in this case, we've got a very good tape measure with a little bit extra, so it's a proper tape measure. But often the 0 is right on the end of the tape measure, and it can fray a little bit and muck up our measurement. So we'll quite often take 10 as 0 and then deduct 10 off the end. But in this case, because 0, there is a little bit of room there, we can use 0, rule down, and we say the distance there is 34. Half of 34 is 17, so we place a little dash on the 17. Now, we've got the midway point in our arm here. All we need to find is the most anterior and most posterior part of the arm from this particular position. So all we need to do to find that then is we take our tape measure and place it around the arm. Now, we use a method called the crossover method at all times when we're placing the tape measure around the arm, which means we're trying to make a full circle. So we've got one part of the tape measure crossing directly over with the other. Now, when we do this, we're looking to line it up using our body position standing directly side on. We want to take the most anterior. So it's a line of sight here. When I see my pen moving around, if I have my pen there, I can see the tip of it. Any further, I can't see the tip. So I know that if I'm standing directly side on with our patient, that the most anterior portion would be right there. Now, this is actually a Skinfold site. So the difference in markings here is I'm making it across. I do the exact same on the back for the triceps. So by moving my pen around, I can see the most posterior in a direct horizontal with our halfway midpoint mark. And again, I do a little cross. So that's the bicep and tricep Skinfold sites. Okay, we're looking now for the subscapular Skinfold site. In order to find that, I must find the most inferior point of the scapula. So again, I palpate around the scapula, trying to find the inferior angle, so the pointy part of the scapula right at the bottom. If I have trouble finding it, I can take the patient's arm and I can sort of move it in a backward and wing it type direction just to get that inferior point sticking out of the scapula, and then just relax it whilst keeping my finger on that point. Now, it's not actually the site, it's just the landmark we're looking for, so I'll use a dash. The actual subscapular Skinfold site is 2 centimetres at a 45-degree angle inferiorly and laterally from this line. So I take my tape measure and I'm measuring at a 45-degree angle 2 centimetres from that point, and I'll put my little cross. So that would be the subscapular Skinfold site. So we're trying to find the Skinfold site for the iliac crest. It's at the most superior point of the iliac crest. So in order to find that, I palpate around my iliac crest and I'm looking for the highest point. So directly, if I stand directly behind it, I can kind of sort of move this body mass up and find that highest most point. Leave my finger on it and drawing my cross. It's a cross this time because the actual landmark we're looking for is exactly the same as the Skinfold site. So that's the Skinfold site. Now we're moving around the body to find the Suprasinale. So in order to find the Suprasinale, I need to find 2 points. Firstly, I need to find my anterior superior iliac spine. So it's on that iliac crest again. As we move around, we'll actually feel it's the lump. It's the most anterior lump, highest to the top is what we're looking for. You know you're on it because if you go a little bit further, it actually ducks away into another little groove. So sometimes this can be difficult to find, but we're putting a little dash there because this is a markup, not the actual Skinfold site. Now, what we need to do there is we need to draw an imaginary line from the Skinfold mark, or the markup, to the anterior of the axillary, so the front of the armpit. So I just place my tape measure on the front of the armpit, and I just draw a little line roughly in line with the iliac crest marking. And by rotating the patient around slightly, we take the line that's directly horizontal, and again, body position's everything. I need to really get down so I can see that line directly horizontal to find where those 2 marks intersect. So again, I found the iliac crest first. It was the most superior point of the iliac. Then I came around to find the anterior superior iliac spine. I drew a line between that and the anterior axillary, or the front of the armpit, and where those 2 lines intersect is where my supraspinale Skinfold site is. The final landmark, or the final Skinfold site in this area is the abdomen. The abdomen is taken at 5 centimetres away from our belly button. So I place my tape measure 5 centimetres from the belly button, and I draw my Skinfold mark, like so. Okay, we need to find the Skinfold site for the mid-axilla. In order to find that, I need to find the cross section between the midway point between my iliac crest and the middle of my axillary, which is my armpit, and where that intersects horizontally with the xiphoid process. So firstly, to find the xiphoid process, I just palpate up the body. I need to find where the ribs are, right? So I can find my ribs, and I find where those ribs meet. So I'll feel the point where my 2 ribs meet, and then slightly below that, I'll actually feel the little spongy xiphoid process. We want to put a marking right on the tip of that xiphoid process with a little stroke. Now, just turn our patient slightly around. We need to find this midway point between the armpit, or the axillary, and the iliac crest. So again, I take my tape measure. It's a bit of line of sight to find that middle of that armpit there. I take my tape measure down to my iliac crest, and I'm looking for a little marking that is directly in line with that, with the xiphoid process. And again, just like this way, I'm looking for that horizontal intersection. So I take my tape measure and I form a horizontal line directly across where those 2 meet. That is my mid-axilla Skinfold site. Okay, we need to find, in order to find the quadricep or the thigh Skinfold site, we need to find the halfway distance between the inguinal fold and the tip, or the most superior point of the patella. So in order to find that, again, whenever we've got sort of a bony sort of ridge, we just roll our pen and we can feel the ridge right on the most superior tip of our patella. And I draw a little dash. Now, I take my tape measure and I place it right on the inguinal fold line, right? So it's where the fold in the skin takes place, and pretty much right where your underline would normally sit. And I take the halfway distance of this point, so the total distance is 44, halfway would be 22. So I'm putting a mark, or the Skinfold sight cross, right at the halfway point between these two markings, so the inguinal fold and the superior point or tip of the patella. Okay, so we're looking for the Skinfold sight for the calf. In order to find this, I need to find the area of greatest circumference around the calf. So I use my tape measure, place it around the calf. Again, using the crossover technique, I reshuffle the tape measure up and down the leg until I find the greatest circumference. So I look at that, so I move it a bit. Is that going up? Is that going down? I'm finding the area of greatest. Now, I want to find the greatest circumference, but the Skinfold sight is on the most medial point of the calf. So I need to, body position is key here, I need to be looking directly ahead. And again, I just roll my pen around until I see where that arc is at its greatest. And that is my calf Skinfold sight.